Have you ever wondered why some women become obsessed with certain men while ignoring those who do everything correctly?
Today you will discover something that no one has told you: the biological, psychological, and even philosophical science of female desire. Prepare yourself to understand why comfort does not attract, why predictability kills passion, and why the secret of fascination lies in something you have probably never noticed. In the next minutes, we will dive into what Friedrich Nietzsche called the essence of desire, that which truly makes a woman become emotionally addicted to a man who acts as if he were nothing. If topics such as psychology, philosophy, and the darkness of the human soul interest you, subscribe to the channel now. Nietzsche teaches us that human desire is not directed only toward what is visible or obvious. True attraction is born from something that cannot be touched, measured, or bought. Mystery, uncertainty, the perception of value that transcends superficiality. When we talk about female fascination, this becomes even more evident. A woman does not fall in love only with what you immediately offer. She falls in love with what you represent, with what you keep to yourself, and with the way you remain unshackable in the face of the need for approval. It is in this invisibility, in this presence that does not beg, that fascination installs itself silently, like a shadow that gradually grows in the unconscious. Contrary to what modern culture suggests, female desire does not arise from comfort or predictable kindness. It flourishes in the terrain of doubt, tension, and the need to earn. Nature describes humans as driven by wills and impulses that often escape reason. Female attraction follows the same principle. What she desires is not simply your attention, but the experience of earning your attention. When everything is given easily, instantly, and predictably, a woman's unconscious brain interprets this as lack of value, and fascination silently dies without apparent explanation. The man who maintains mystery, who does not reveal everything about himself immediately, carries a natural magnetism. Nietzsche said that strength and power reside in the ability to assert oneself without submitting to the expectations of others. This logic applies directly to the psychology of female fascination. The scarcer and more selective you appear, the higher the value she perceives. This emotional scarcity is not about playing or manipulating. It is about occupying a space that few men achieve, the space of one who chooses and does not beg to be chosen. This is the fundamental principle that transforms male attention into something rare and therefore irresistible. Nietzsche warned that perception shapes human reality as much as objective facts. In the context of attraction, this means that the value perceived by a woman often outweighs any material achievement or social status you possess. A wealthy, handsome, and educated man can lose to someone seemingly ordinary if his posture conveys insecurity or need. Female fascination ignites when a man demonstrates that he does not depend on her approval to feel complete, creating a contrast between presence, independence, and scarcity that activates primitive instincts of attraction and survival. Nietzsche stood the power of tension as a vital element in human life. Applying this to female psychology, we see that attraction intensifies when there is uncertainty about your feelings or intentions. The unconscious mind interprets scarcity and selectivity as signs of high value. The less predictable you are, the less she can anticipate your actions, the more fascinating you become. This uncertainty is the fuel of desire, creating an almost addictive state in which the woman invests emotionally to decipher who you really are, without knowing if she will ever reach a complete answer. Fascination is not just a social construct. It is a deep biological instinct. Nietzsche understood that much of human life is guided by invisible forces that escape reason. For thousands of years, female survival depended on choosing partners capable of providing security, strength, and leadership. Today, even in urban and civilized environments, the female brain still operates under this ancestral code. A woman senses when a man does not submit, does not beg, and does not bend. This instinctive perception is irresistible because it activates biological mechanisms formed to preserve the species, connecting fascination to something much deeper than compliments or material gifts. Nietzsche often speaks about the creation of myths and symbols as a way to transcend ordinary reality. In the psychology of fascination, the man who maintains his emotional scarcity, strategic silence, and firm presence becomes a myth for the woman. He's not just an individual. He becomes an emotionally magnetic figure, impossible to fully decipher. This myth is intoxicating because it awakens the imagination, creates expectation, and keeps desire alive. The more she has to earn your affection, the more deeply she connects emotionally, becoming dependent on this silent enigma. Finally, Nietzsche teaches us that true fascination arises from self-awareness, not from trying to please others. The man who understands his inner value, who does not fear rejection, and who maintains emotional integrity exercises power without needing to manipulate her. He awakens fascination because his existence is an invitation to conquest, not an automatic concession. This is the essence of the psychology of fascination: to awaken desire without offering guarantees, create connection without subordination, and become a center of silent power that the woman perceives, feels, and becomes emotionally addicted to. Nietzsche reminds us that fascination is not about superficial kindness or charisma, but about inner strength, presence, and deep mystery. The first lesson that biological logic reveals is that female desire is not rational. Nietzsche already taught us that human will is driven by deep, invisible, and often unconscious forces. What a woman feels in front of a man does not depend on compliments, gifts, or romantic gestures. It depends on subtle signals, on invisible patterns that the ancestral brain has learned to recognize over thousands of years. Every gesture, every pause, every silence communicates more than 1,000 words because it is interpreted by the silent code that governs survival instinct. In the history of humanity, the partner who seemed strongest, most capable of protection, guaranteed the survival of the woman and her offspring. Nietzsche reminds us that life is a constant struggle and that nature rewards those who can assert their value. This instinct still operates today. A woman unconsciously perceives if a man would be able to withstand adversity, maintain emotional firmness, and offer security. It is not a question of luxury or romance. It is about the silent perception of value and strength. The silent code is the nonverbal language that governs attraction. It does not communicate with words, but through attitudes, behaviors, and energy. A man who demonstrates urgency, neediness, or anxiety is transmitting vulnerability, while one who maintains firmness and independence exudes power. Nietzsche emphasized that the essence of a man is not in what he says, but in what he is. Likewise, female fascination responds to what the man demonstrates through posture, rhythm, and presence, not through speeches or empty compliments. Women, consciously or unconsciously, apply tests that reveal this silent code. Every coldness, every delay, every subtle comparison with other men is not malice. It is an instinctive experiment. They need to evaluate if the man can resist emotionally, maintain his own center, and not yield to the need for approval. Nietzsche would remind us that inner strength manifests precisely in these moments, not in what is shown to the world, but in the silent control over one's own desire and reaction. When a man acts predictably, anxiously, or submissively, the silent code registers a value failure. It does not matter how many gifts he gives or how hard he tries. The woman's unconscious perception is that he would not be able to withstand emotional challenges. Desire diminishes silently, connection loses intensity, and attraction fades. Nietzsche teaches us that true strength is not demonstrative, it is intrinsic. Fascination disappears when perceived value does not meet instinctive expectation. Silence and emotional scarcity are not manipulative strategies. They are biological signs of strength. Nietzsche valued the power that arises from autonomy itself. When a man maintains his space, does not react to every emotional test, and does not offer immediate approval, he sends a clear message. He does not depend on external recognition to exist. This activates the silent code of female attraction, which interprets this stance as a signal of survival, competence, and leadership. Biological logic rewards mystery and complexity. Nietzsche teaches us that life affirms itself in challenge, tension, and overcoming. Fascination arises when the woman feels she must conquer the man, decipher his energy, and earn his attention. Every contained gesture, every planned absence, every selective demonstration of interest naturally activates mechanisms of primitive desire. The man becomes an enigma, a myth, a presence that cannot be easily possessed, and it is in this space of effort and uncertainty that fascination intensifies. In the end, it all comes down to internal positioning. Nietzsche reminds us that a man's value begins with how he perceives himself, not how others see him. When a man internalizes his strength, maintains emotional balance, and allows his value to be recognized selectively, he operates the silent code naturally. Female desire remains alive because she perceives that being by his side is not given but earned. This deep understanding transforms attraction into fascination, presence into emotional addiction, and the relationship into a dynamic of symbolic and instinctive power. Perceived value is not about what you possess, but about how you position yourself in the world. Nietzsche teaches us that greatness is born from autonomy and inner strength, not from the approval of others. A woman instinctively senses when a man respects and values himself, and this becomes more powerful than any wealth, appearance, or social achievement. The more he maintains emotional balance and a firm posture, even in the face of subtle tests, the higher his perceived value becomes. This value is an invisible aura, a silent signal that the female brain identifies and responds to almost automatically. Emotional scarcity acts as a catalyst for fascination. Nietzsche would remind us that humans are attracted to what they cannot easily possess. When a man offers his attention and affection abundantly, predictably, and immediately, he becomes predictable and therefore less desirable. On the other hand, strategic absence, temporary silence, and selective availability activate a mechanism of deep desire. The woman feels she must earn every gesture, every word, every look. It is precisely in this effort that fascination strengthens, almost as an instinctive need for conquest. In the invisible market of attraction, the attention of a high-value man is a rare currency. Nietzsche understood that power is not demonstrative, but silent. When a man distributes his attention selectively, he creates a dynamic of intermittent reinforcement. The woman never knows for sure when she will have access to his interest, which sparks curiosity, expectation, and desire. Every gesture he offers, whether a message, a meeting, or a compliment, becomes an intense reward, valued precisely because it is not guaranteed. It is this balance between presence and absence that keeps fascination alive. Many men confuse objective value with perceived value. An expensive car, a successful career, or well-defined muscles may impress superficially, but they do not guarantee emotional fascination. Nietzsche reminds us that the essence of power resides within, in the ability to assert oneself without needing to prove anything. Female perception reacts to what a man represents: strength, independence, emotional control, and mystery. A seemingly ordinary man with firm posture and emotional scarcity often sparks more fascination than a wealthy man who is needy or anxious for approval. When perceived value is combined with emotional scarcity, the effect is almost addictive. Nietzsche would teach us that what is rare, difficult to achieve, and laden with mystery sparks an attraction that goes beyond rationality. The woman feels that every moment of attention is earned, that every gesture of affection is deserved. This effect creates emotional dependence, not through manipulation, but through a deep biological and psychological logic. The man who understands and internalizes this dynamic not only awakens desire, he becomes unforgettable, occupying a place in the female mind and heart that few can reach. Attraction, before being a social game or a cultural construct, is a biological imperative. The human mind may dress desire in sophisticated words, but deep down, the body speaks its own ancestral and irresistible language. Female instinct, shaped over thousands of years of survival, responds to signals of strength, unpredictability, and autonomy. This is why Nietzsche said that beneath the masks of morality and civilization, the beast still pulses, the raw life, where dominance belongs not to the one who pleases, but to the one who carries within him the seal of raw vitality. A woman is not deceived by the surface. Even if she consciously claims to prefer stability and comfort, unconsciously she is drawn to the man who radiates potency, the one who conveys that he could live without her. This paradox is the root of fascination. Desire is less about what is promised and more about what is silent. But this logic is not evident because it operates as a silent code. It is not about what the man says, but about what he embodies. His posture, his gaze, his silence in the face of provocation, the way he does not rush to fill every void with words. All of this communicates more than 1,000 speeches. Biological language is an invisible dance. Micro-expressions, pauses, breaths, gestures that escape consciousness and reveal whether a man is truly in control of himself or merely performing confidence. A woman perceives this instinctively. She reads hesitation hidden behind bravado, senses desperation disguised as exaggerated affection, feels the hidden weakness in the need to be accepted. That is why fascination never arises from trying to please, but from the ability to remain whole even in the face of possible rejection. This invisible game exposes something disturbing. Female attraction is more sensitive to absence than to presence. Strategic silence can be more seductive than an elaborate speech. A refusal can be more stimulating than immediate surrender. Here lies the cruel logic of biology. Desire is fueled by what is not given, what escapes, what remains inaccessible. The man who understands this silent code learns that less is more. Fewer words, more presence. Fewer concessions, more firmness. Less anxiety, more calm. This restraint is not coldness, but inner strength. It is the same strength that Nietzsche called the will to power, not the urge to dominate others, but the ability to master oneself and thus radiate something that cannot be taught in any manual of seduction. The silent code, therefore, is the secret language of biology translated into behavior. It is not a trick, but a truth. The more a man distances himself from the need for approval, the more magnetic he becomes. The more he lives according to his own rhythm, the more he unconsciously transmits the message that he is self-sufficient. And it is precisely this independence that triggers desire. Fascination, at its core, is not about techniques or strategies, but about the courage to be a center of gravity in oneself. A woman is attracted not because the man chases her, but because she senses that even in his absence, he remains whole, and it is this wholeness that ignites the ancestral instinct, the silent code that has always guided the biological logic of attraction. Human desire has always bowed to scarcity. What is abundant loses luster. What is delivered effortlessly loses value. In the field of attraction, this reveals itself brutally. The more a man offers himself, the more he is discarded. Fascination does not arise from constant presence, but from absence that weighs, from doubt that gnaws, from distance that creates tension. Scarcity awakens in the woman the sense of being faced with something rare, difficult to conquer, something not found everywhere. As Machiavelli said, men appreciate more what they conquer with difficulty. This rule also applies to the human heart, because the mind associates effort with value. The secret of fascination lies in hidden value. When a man does not reveal everything about himself, when he leaves blank spaces, when he keeps parts inaccessible, he becomes an enigma. And the enigma is irresistible. A woman does not desire only what is in front of her eyes. She desires what is hidden, what seems to escape, what does not surrender easily. This hidden value creates a sense of depth, as if there is always more to discover. Scarcity, then, is not the absence of content, but the art of not giving everything at once. The man who masters this game becomes inexhaustible because each encounter reveals only a new layer, never the whole. But there is a trap, confusing scarcity with arrogance or indifference. True scarcity is subtle, almost invisible. It does not push away, it invites. It is not disdain, but the suggestion that an inner world remains inaccessible. It is this balance that creates fascination, enough to attract, enough to escape. A game of proximity and distance, of revealing and concealing, that transforms a simple encounter into a psychological hunt. In the end, it is not the man who chases the woman, but the woman who begins to chase the mystery he represents. The man who understands these laws not only gains attention, but awakens something deeper: respect, fascination, silent fear. He ceases to be predictable and becomes a force, a magnetic field that cannot be explained, only felt. Seduction, at this level, is not a technique, but a presence. And this presence is rare because it requires internal mastery, strategic patience, and the courage not to surrender to immediate desire. While most beg for crumbs of attention, the man who knows these rules becomes an inexhaustible source of value. He does not beg, plead, or bow. He becomes the prize. And when a man is perceived as a prize, everything around him changes. The way he is treated, the way he is remembered, the way he is desired. He does not chase the game. He becomes the game itself. Now, the choice is yours. Continue as an ordinary spectator, or transform into the architect of desire, the strategist of the mind, and the master of invisible power. If you want to continue receiving secrets like these, diving even deeper into the ideas of Machiavelli, Nietzsche, and Jung, subscribe to the channel now and activate notifications. Because this is only the beginning of a journey that few have the courage to enter. These two videos in front of you are not here by chance. And if everything you believe about yourself is just a reflection of someone else's gaze, click now on one of the videos on the side and start breaking that mirror. You will have to risk the click. So, which one will you choose?